The shadow animatronics are one of the biggest mysteries in Five Nights at Freddy's. Well, not anymore, because the title implies I solved the mystery.
My brother in Christ, just get to the theory.
Okay, Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy are the agony of the dead kids in the first and second MCI. Many people would say that the Shadow animatronics first show up chronologically in 1983 because the player in FNAF 4 fights Nightmare. Although I believe the person we play as in FNAF 4 does fight Nightmare, I do not believe that the FNAF 4 gameplay does not take place in 1983. In fact, I don't believe that the FNAF 4 gameplay and the minigames take place within the same year. So when, without a doubt, is a time that the Shadow animatronics do appear. We know they show up in 1987, 1993, and 2031, respectively FNAF 2, FNAF 3 minigames, and FNAF AR. So the earliest they manifest in 1987. However, I do believe that they begin to manifest in 1985. I'll be real with y'all, I have no fucking clue about their motivation. I'ma just go off script for a second. These guys switch sides and motives more times than Toto switched places with in Jujutsu Kaisen jumping. But throughout all of their appearances, the Shadow animatronics do have some level of consistency. They show compassion when it comes to the missing kid, and they're extremely passive. But when it comes to pretty much anyone else but them, they're extremely aggressive. When you take this idea and run with it might answer a few questions. More specifically, why Shadow Bonnie helps with Happiest Day, and why Shadow Freddy leads the kids towards Williams. Because they're the agony of the MCI. They have two motives, to kill and torture William and to help the missing kids. Which leads me to my next point. Nightmare is Shadow Freddy.
But how is Nightmare Shadow Freddy if Shadow Freddy doesn't exist yet?
Hold on. Remember what I said earlier? I do not believe that the FNAF 4 gameplay takes place during the events of the minigame. I believe that the minigame itself does take place in 1983, but the FNAF 4 gameplay probably takes place from 1985 and onward. This would mean that Nightmare, aka Shadow Freddy, has to put the player of FNAF 4 in a dream loop. In Ultimate Custom Night, both Nightmare and Shadow Bonnie do appear within the game, and since Nightmare is Shadow Freddy, that would mean that both Shadow animatronics are torturing William. So what exactly are they? Well, they are spiritual entities made from agony to help with the missing kids. But there might be a bit more to them. I mentioned that there was the first and the second MCI. In the FNAF 2 minigames, we actually see the second MCI, or at least the aftermath. We know there had to be two, because where did those dead bodies come from? I mean, if the animatronics are already haunted, which they are because we play as Freddy, that would mean that there was a second MCI that the kids couldn't stop. I believe that Shadow Freddy first manifested after the agony of the first MCI. Then Shadow Bonnie manifested the agony of the second MCI. This kinda makes sense when you realize the models that the Shadow animatronics take. Shadow Freddy takes Golden Freddy or Wither Freddy's appearance, aka he's manifested in an earlier model. Meanwhile, Shadow Bonnie is in a Toy Bonnie model, and we know that this is canonical because every single time we see him, it is Toy Bonnie and is never corrected, which means Toy Bonnie or Shadow Bonnie is just the agony of the second MCI. And this also makes sense in a more literal sense. We never see Shadow Freddy canonically again after FNAF 3's Happiest Day game. This would mean that Shadow Freddy probably finished his purpose. His goals were to help the first MCI kids and torture William, while Shadow Bonnie's goals were to help the second MCI kids and also torture William, which would lead me to another point. I believe that Molten MCI isn't Multi-MCI 1, but Molten MCI 2. The Molten MCI theory is that William took the souls of the first 5 missing kids and put it into the Funtime animatronics. However, this never really made that much sense to me, because William pretty much has no time to do this. Do you know when he would have time to for a specific group of other dead kids? After FNAF 2 closes, the animatronics are put to scraps. This would mean that William would have the perfect chance to gather remnant from those animatronics and stick it into his fun times. And the reason why I think this theory is correct is because we never see Shadow Freddy. His purpose was fulfilled. He helped the missing kids, and then he disappeared as the missing kids moved on, and he only came back to torture William. And I believe that Shadow Bonnie is still around because of the Molten Freddy. Molten Freddy is made up of the souls of the second missing kids incident, and Shadow Bonnie can't move on because he is trying to help them. But remember, 5 kids all into one, and their souls are scrambled. Shadow Bonnie is now stuck in a logic loop where he is trying to help the missing kids, but he doesn't really see them as the kids anymore, as they're just one clump of souls. They can't be set free because, well, there's no way to separate them, which actually might explain Shadow Bonnie's appearance in FNAF AR. Now, all you can really do is just roam the earth and only appear when a bunch of dark remnant is gathered in one spot. Shadow Bonnie has both a purpose and no purpose at the same time. Meanwhile, Shadow Freddy was able to move on. And of course, Shadow Bonnie also goes with Shadow Freddy to torture William. So maybe it was more of a resting period for both of them. Anyway, this was Isaiah the Arco. If you guys want to hear more about my second alternate MCI theory, I will make a video on that, but it will come out within a while. I really do want to talk further about that, but I don't have the necessary research for that yet. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you want to see more theories, just comment down below your thoughts, be respectful, and I love you all. Remember to drink water.